I really do believe if you could make someone feel more confident in their own skin, that I think they walk differently through the world.
Welcome to the Making of, a podcast by Grazia. I'm Olivia Morris, and in each episode, we sit down with someone whose story reminds us that success is not always linear. In this episode, Amy talks about purpose-driven entrepreneurship, starting a business at 40, the power of community, and what it takes to build a successful brand in this day and age. This is the making of Amy Liu and Tower 28.
Somebody once told me, and I actually think this is true, that every brand is a long shadow of its founder. I've spent a lot more time as an employee than I have as a founder. The benefit of that is that I understand what it's like to be an employee, and I think it makes me a better manager. Honestly, I turned 40 years old. I had 3 kids, and I was kind of like, well, I guess it's too late. I had a friend who was like, you're either going to do it now or you're going to do it never.
Welcome, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming, and welcome to Dubai for the first time. I know you're probably a little bit jet lagged, but we really appreciate you being here on the launch podcast of Grazia, the making of. To kind of start with, I'd love to just go back to your origins and how you found yourself entering the beauty space, but your early years, did you ever envision yourself entering the beauty space, becoming an entrepreneur to build this amazing brand that we know it as today, Tower 28?
Yeah, so beauty is actually the only industry I've ever really worked in. I've had one other job. I worked as a consultant out of college, but otherwise it's been 23 years in the beauty industry. So I have always worked in beauty, but even longer than that, I've had eczema. So I've had eczema since I was in college. And the thing about eczema is that it is a chronic condition. There is no cure and there's no clear cause. So it can be really frustrating. So I think I grew up really wanting to be an entrepreneur. My parents immigrated from Taiwan to America. I was born in the Midwest. And I saw him become an entrepreneur. And I think, it's interesting because now being an entrepreneur is so glamorous. But I think back then my dad would tell you that he did it because he had to.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have, a choice because I think English was his second language and it was hard for him to get a job that would really pay him what he wanted to make. And so he thought being an entrepreneur would be the right path for him. But I think I saw him doing that and I thought, oh, like I really want to do that because he seemed like just always so passionate about what he did. So that was kind of always in my mind. Beauty specifically was something I always wanted to do because I really felt like, I don't know, there's something about beauty that I find so fascinating where, I don't know, people, men, women, when they do their skincare, when they do their makeup, they feel so much better about themselves. And it's almost like an armor that you go out into the world and have. And for me specifically, having had eczema and working in the beauty industry, it was really hard for me. I felt really self-conscious, honestly, because I don't know, sometimes when you work in fashion or beauty, I think you feel like you have to look the part.
Of course.
And I really felt like as a person who was in marketing always, and I was going to Nordstrom and Sephora and every other retailer, and I was selling in, makeup, the best foundation, the next moisturizer, and saying this is the next skin perfector. But meanwhile, I was like, don't look at my skin. It really was hard for me. And the one thing I really wanted to do was to be able to wear makeup. But the thing is, when you have skin conditions and you want to cover up your redness, you want to cover up your skin issues, you're really worried that the makeup that you're choosing in the short term is the thing that's actually making your skin worse and you're just perpetuating your own problems.
Yeah.
So, long way of just saying, I really always wanted to do this and I didn't know that this was an option, frankly, for me. Like I kind of wanted to do it for a long time, but I thought, honestly, I turned 40 years old. I had 3 kids and I was kind of like, well, I guess it's too late. I think that I've always wanted to do. I don't know if it makes sense. And I had a friend who was like, you're either going to do it now or you're going to do it never. And that was kind of the kick in the butt that I needed to get started. And he gratefully also gave me some seed money to start. And I raised about 500,000 US dollars for friends and family to start. And that was really how Tower 28 began.
Insane. Kind of taking it back a little bit, you've obviously, as you said, have over 2 decades in the beauty industry. Can you talk me through your experience in the corporate world of beauty? You were very much, was it Smashbox,
Yeah.
Kate Somerville,
Yeah.
and what was
And
the
Josie Maran
right?
Cosmetics.
Can you talk me through your experience that you gained during these years, which you have then taken on to launch your
Yeah.
own brand?
Well, if you look at my career trajectory, you would notice that I went from kind of a bigger brand to a smaller brand. If you know those brands, they're all LA based indie beauty brands,
Hmm.
and they went from bigger company to smaller. But my job kept getting bigger at each one. So when I was at Smashbox, I was right out of business school, and I started there to launch international, which was a very entrepreneurial thing. Like the domestic business was already happening, but I came in to launch international. Then I went to Kate Somerville, and Kate Somerville had never been in retail yet. It had only been in salons and spas at the time. And so I also came in, and then I was the head of marketing there. And I launched that. Then when I went to Josie, Josie was so small. I was the first executive that was there at the time. And so I came in when there were, I don't know, maybe like 8 employees. But I was the first VP. And basically, I mean, we went from like 3 million to like 50 million in 3 years. So like my job there was actually quite big because I was able to be really close to the founder and really had a seat at the table. And I think all of that really prepared me for what I'm doing today. And I like to think that I've spent a lot more time as an employee than I have as a founder.
Yeah.
And I think the benefit of that is that I understand what it's like to be an employee. And I think it makes me a better manager.
Yeah, absolutely. So you ended up leaving your last corporate role and you consulted for a few years before you
Yeah,
decided to launch Tower 28,
for
right?
sure.
Can you talk me through that kind of transition and what was the kind of turning point for you to decide, oh, right, there is this space for me to launch this beauty brand? Because
Yeah.
it wasn't always, would you say it was in your subconscious to launch your own brand?
I would say I've always wanted, so one part of me always wanted to be an entrepreneur just because I saw my dad do it. But the other part of it was I didn't, sometimes when you work in an industry for a long time, I think you become almost more cynical
Mm,
because you feel like, oh, that's somebody else has already tried that, or you kind of feel like you can poke holes at anything. So I think at the time I really wasn't sure if I could do it. I didn't know that I had like a fresh idea to do it. But I guess almost talking about that period of time, there were two different things that's happened. One that I left and I started consulting. And I think that was a hard thing to do because I don't know, when you're making good money and you have a career, I think that's a difficult thing to leave a full-time job, like the golden handcuffs of it all, and take that leap. And the reason I did it really was because I think it's really hard, especially I don't really know what it's like here in Dubai, but in America, I think it's quite difficult for women to work and have children. The cost of childcare is really high, and the working hours are still quite long, and people tend to, I think, start making money right at the time that they're also having children, and there's not.
so it's kind of a crossroads in a way, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Which
there's
one do
not
you
like,
choose?
and I mean, societally, we as women also don't like, we don't live intergeneration. Like I'm Chinese, right? So in Taiwan, in China, like people live intergenerationally where your grandmas and your moms might live with you and help with your children. That doesn't happen in America so much, right? So we don't have community that same way.
Mm.
And I think when I started having kids, I found it really difficult to be so full on at work and so full on at home. And so I decided to take some time off and I started working part-time instead when I had a third child and I had these little kids. And I'm really grateful now that I did that because I think had I not done that, I don't know if I could fully do what I'm doing now.
Interesting.
Because I think it really gave me the perspective and it made me realize how important my own identity is and how important it is for me. I really believe in this, they say happy wife, happy life. I kind of think that's true. At least my husband would tell you it's true. And so it was really important for me to be able to take that time. And it made me step back and really think about what I wanted out of my career and out of my life. Because I think sometimes when you're in your job, you're just in your job and there's so much momentum to that, and taking time and stepping back from it and being hungry again and really knowing what you want, I think is a really powerful thing. The business side of it, I mean, honestly, um, I didn't know I could do this. So I think it was a time when, so I started the brand I raised money in 2018. We launched in 2019.
Okay.
And if you can remember what it was like back then, that was when Glossier was kind of at its peak. That was when brands like Away and Reformation were really doing well. And the commonality was that they were all women founders, but they were also raising a lot of money
Mm.
and spending a lot of money. And I didn't see myself in that. Like, I didn't have connections to that world. I didn't know how people did that. So I just didn't think it was an option for me. I was kind of more just an employee, right? Like, I was somebody who had worked in a company for other people for a long time. And I kept telling myself, if I just get a seat at the table and I keep working really hard, that at some point I'll know what it's like to be a founder and I'll be able to make that leap. And then all of a sudden I turned 40 and I was like, wait, I haven't done it. And my friend was like, you haven't done it. And if you're not doing it now, you won't do it, because literally, if you just keep taking a job, it's just not going to happen. And that was the thing that really made me stop and think about it. And so now today, Tower 28 is the only beauty brand that is 100% compliant with the National Eczema Association. Our products are clean, safe for sensitive skin, high performance. We like to say that all of our products are what we call good, clean, fun. And the products were always made the same way, with the intention of being almost like I'd like to think it's like a modern day Clinique. So when I was young and growing up, Clinique was the brand that, my first makeup, my first skincare, and it kind of superseded age. Like, my mom used it, I used it.
Yeah,
Um,
it was very much for all ages at the
for all
time. Yeah.
ages, and it was entry level
Hmm.
prestige, right? So I
Yes.
got to
Yeah.
shop at the department store.
Yeah.
I got to have the experience, but I wasn't spending Dior prices, right? And I think that was what I really wanted to do. Was I wanted to be able to offer. I have kids, my two daughters. One of them has actually pretty severe eczema and vitiligo. And so I kept thinking about, like, okay, well, what is she going to use that I can still use too? And so that was really how Tower 28 was born. It was like this need for wanting products that are safe. And Tower 20 is actually named after the lifeguard tower in
Right. Okay.
LA. So
Yeah.
between Santa Monica and Venice, there is a lifeguard tower. All the lifeguard towers are actually named 1 through 30. And the one I always went to with my friends was Tower 28. And one day I got a text from a friend and it said, "Hey, we're all going to the beach today. Do you want to go to Tower 28?" And I was like, wait a minute, that's it. Like, lifeguard towers are an obvious sign of safety.
Mm-hmm.
And also this place where everybody gets to enjoy a clean and healthy lifestyle and a
Yeah.
meeting point for people. And so that was really the inspiration for it.
Okay.
And that's how the products were born. And so today we make color products, like the lips and the cheeks and
Yeah.
everything, kind of fun.
Mhm.
And then we also make complexion. So we have the number 3 concealer at Sephora, number in the United States, number 2 in units. Because our price point is a little bit lower. And then, and we have skincare, which our SOS sprays are our number 1 selling product, and it's a number 1 toner at Sephora.
This is quite groundbreaking, isn't it? Can you talk me through how it's groundbreaking and how wasn't it a story that you had someone that was a friend that gave you a similar
Yes.
product, but it
So
was medical grade? Is that
total,
correct?
well, not well, so yes,
Yeah.
and yes and no. So basically what happened was, when I was working on the brand,
Mhm.
I actually initially, what I set out to do was to make a makeup brand, because
Okay.
I felt like every skincare brand had a sensitive line. And so I didn't think that that was necessarily the biggest need.
Yeah.
And again, I wanted to wear makeup. I wanted to be able to cover up my skin issues
Without irritating
without
yourself.
irritating it.
Yeah.
That was kind of the thesis that I set out with. Along the way, I always made the products the same way. So I was personally following the National Eczema Association to understand what kind of soap I should use,
Mhm.
what I should wash my hands with, but what I should also, like, wash my detergent, everything with. And so I thought, okay, well, I should also follow that for the beauty products. And so I was making everything that way. And then I was working with this graphic designer, and she independent of all that, was just hearing me talk about my eczema.
Mhm.
And she said, my husband's a surfer and he's been using this for his reef cuts.
Right.
You should try this, because a lot of the things that are happening with a reef cut are actually quite similar to eczema. So if you think about it, any type of a wound that you have is actually, when you have a wound, even if it's self-inflicted like a reef cut, is inflamed skin.
Yeah.
And the thing that makes any inflamed skin more upset is bacteria. Eczema, similarly, in my situation, it can happen because of environmental, genetic, bacterial issues. But either way, it's again inflammation. But then the thing that stokes it, makes it worse, is always going to be bacteria. And so this is an antibacterial, anti-inflammatory ingredient that she gave me. She was like, "You should just try this. It's an ingredient called hypochlorous acid." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I used it on my face and I used it on my body. So for years, my skin was so bad, my eczema, that I would wake up in the morning and I would not know what the day was going to be like. And I took steroids for,
I suffer as
oh,
well.
you
And
do.
hydrocortisone, it's a quick fix, but it doesn't make it go away and you become dependent on it, right?
You not only well, for me, I became not only dependent on it, but I actually became immune to it. So I went from hydrocortisone to clobetasol, which is just a stronger steroid, and then I was taking methylprednisolone, which is a pill,
Mm.
and that was actually the thing that worked the best for me. And so I found I'm not
But
proud
it's
of.
putting steroids into your body, isn't
I
it?
mean, not only is it putting steroids into your body, but if you've ever taken those, on the side of the stickers, all the warning labels. And now, I worry that I've done this to myself, but it's like, bone density loss and like eye vision problems. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that come from
Yeah.
taking steroids, but steroids are still today kind of like the quickest, cheapest
Yeah.
remedy, but it's not a remedy. It is
a
it just
cover-up.
helps. It's a cover up. It helps with the symptoms, but it doesn't actually cure anything. And I was popping those. I mean, this was like in my 20s. I cared what I looked like. I was dating. I was going to, events and things like that. And I was taking those pills before I even had an issue because I was so worried about what I was going to look
I
like.
guess that kind of ties into what you were talking about being in the beauty space. You want to look the
Yeah.
part. And if you have a band-aid to cover that up, you're obviously going to use it because you don't want to, it's here and now. I need to be able to
Totally.
get out of the door, cover it up, and that's it. But then inadvertently, you're making the problem worse.
Well, and then there's also topical steroid withdrawal,
Yes.
which is a whole nother issue.
Exactly.
And so I was doing those things and I thought, God, I wish there was something else I could. And I tried everything, by the way. I tried different diets. I tried, I'm Chinese. I've tried, TCM. I've tried Eastern, Western acupuncture. I've done so many different things and really none of it. Some things would help the symptoms, but it never would go away. And I would still say that I have eczema. It's not like now my products make it so I don't have any eczema whatsoever. But hypochlorous acid, this product. So again, I was wearing, at the time, I wouldn't even wear, there were years I would not wear shorts, which in LA is kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't wear a
Yeah.
skirt or shorts. It's like if I was always wearing pants to like the beach, it's kind of odd.
And then everyone's like, are you not hot? And you're
Yeah,
like, just don't ask me that question.
Yeah, just don't ask me that question. But I was so insecure about it. And so I tried this product that this friend recommended, and I put it on my body and I put it on my face. It did not help my face, but it did help my body. And I used to get it quite a bit in the crooks, like I think maybe you
Yes, I
mentioned.
have it right now,
I would,
actually. Yeah.
oh,
Mhm.
it's the worst.
Got a
So I would
flare
get
up.
it in the crooks of my arms and behind my knees. And it did help. And I was like, oh, what's going on here? Like nothing else has helped. And then I started looking it up and started researching it. And hypochlorous acid has been used for centuries in hospitals. It is this ingredient that is not only for wound care,
Okay, interesting.
and actually even like.
And does
when it-
eczema fall under that for wound care or?
So eczema, I think it's not so much, eczema is a open wound
Okay.
because it becomes like a sore. It's a broken skin barrier,
Right.
right? But so is acne, so is psoriasis, so is rosacea. All of these things are inflammation that can then it weakens your skin barrier. And so it makes you more susceptible to bacterial issues. And if you can keep your skin clean and free of bacteria, it just creates an environment so that your skin can heal itself. And that's really what hypochlorous acid does. So for centuries, it's been used in hospitals for wound care. There's even, I know doctors who actually irrigate with it because it's so safe. They will, when they're doing surgery, they will like literally pour it into your body because it's so incredibly safe. But it keeps it keeps your body clean, right? Because they're trying to fight infection.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the main thing for it. And so I was like, what is this wonder ingredient and why has it not been commercialized? Well, it hasn't been commercialized because it's incredibly unstable. So, similar to how a vitamin C
Mm.
is incredibly unstable, so is hypochlorous acid. I was fascinated by this. So, I started looking into it and I ended up meeting a chemist who'd been working on stabilizing it for 8 years. And he said, okay, well, this doesn't work for you, but let's see if we can work with it to find a solution that actually works for your face. And so we played with the pH levels, we played with concentration, we played with the formula, and we got to the point that it was working for my face. And I thought, oh, there's like a there. Like if this actually is 100% natural, 100% gentle, and yet still 100% effective, like that's like the win-win-win of it all, right?
Yeah.
And for me, again, it's eczema, but then I thought, like, what else does this do? And so it's his reef cut, it's my eczema. And so we made, I had two little interns at the time who are still with me. Shout out to Jess and Paulina. But we made 100, we asked them to give us 100 small bottles of it. We printed out little stickers on the printer and we sent an email. Me and these two girls, we just sent emails to our friends and said, we're working on the skincare product. Does anyone want to try it? We don't really know what it does yet. And then shockingly, our friends said, sure, send it to me. And so we sent 100 of these little bottles out, and the response was phenomenal. People were telling us anything from like, oh my God, this has cured my acne better than Accutane,
Wow.
or my rosacea, or my post workout, or like, oh my God, I sprayed it on my piercing or my tattoo and it helped. Like just the craziest stories. And then we also heard like we had an intern who had gotten a boob job
Hmm.
and she was spraying it on her incision and she said the doctor was like, I've never seen anyone heal so well. And we were like, what exactly does this do? And then the more we learned about it, it is genuinely because it is an antibacterial, anti-inflammatory ingredient. So your white blood cells, if you were to get a cut, your body's number one, your skin's number one job is to protect you from the outside world, right? More than it is to be pretty, which is, I think,
Unfortunately.
what all of us think about. But like what it really is trying to do is to protect you from the elements. And so when you get a cut, your white blood cells come to your defense. And your white blood cells also make hypochlorous acid. And so it's the same thing. When you're putting it on topically, your brain is like, oh, we are fighting infection. We are here to be on the defense and to take care of ourselves. So it actually really does promote the healing of your own skin.
Wow.
And then what happened was so that was how we were like, oh my God, this is an amazing product.
Yeah. So
Um,
what time frame was this when you were launching the brand? Was it before official
so
launch
that was one
or?
of our first products were our lip gloss, our SOS spray, and our blush.
Okay.
Those were our first three products. And
And was that kind of what made you foray into skincare with this specific
yeah,
product?
for sure.
Interesting.
And it's like so incredibly lucky that we did it that way because I think you train your customer, right? Like from the beginning, because we launched with both skincare and makeup, our customer trusts us to do both.
Hmm.
Because I think often, if you think about it, most brands either do skincare or color. They don't typically do both, right? You have to have the credibility. Like the customer has
Yes.
to give you the permission to do something. And then what really did happen was, so we launched in April of 2019.
Hmm.
And we launched on a Shopify site with an Instagram mood board. Like I didn't even tell my best friends that I was launching. I didn't send an email out. I was so I don't have another word for it, but I think I was scared.
Okay.
Like
Imposter
there's
syndrome in a way, or
yeah, I think
yeah,
there's a bit of it where you're like, I just want to know that this
you
is
just want
like
to be quiet and just
real.
yeah.
And I think so many of my friends actually, and it's so kind, right? People say things like, if anyone can do it, you can do it. And you're like, ooh, I hope so. And so I mean, if we're being honest, right, the likelihood of success of any startup is quite low.
Hmm.
And then you look at an industry like beauty, which is incredibly competitive. And I don't really know what the statistics are, but like Sephora happily says that it is harder to get into Sephora than it is to get into Harvard.
Interesting.
I didn't go to Harvard, so I don't know, but I imagine it's quite hard.
And I guess you had been so close to beauty for so long, growing brands, so you know how this works. And then launching something from the ground up, you've done it, but
Yep.
then launching your own thing puts your own personal kind of attachment to it, I suppose, and then it makes
Yeah.
it all the more daunting.
It's so
How
daunting.
did you approach being a founder compared to growing other brands when you launched Tower 28? And what was the strategy behind the marketing, social media, and what was the kind
Yeah.
of catalyst to growing it in its first year?
Yeah, I think that so much of if you look at somebody once told me, and I actually think this is true, that every brand is a long shadow of its founder.
Mm.
And I think there's some truth to that. Like, it, at its best, it is kind of your values and what you believe, and the mission that you have in the world. For me, it really is. I like to think that we make products that are a safe space for sensitive skin. And there are so many, what's most meaningful to me is I have so many people who come up to me and tell me they've never been able to wear makeup. They've never been able, that we've helped them fix their skin. I mean, that's incredibly meaningful. But I think to be able to do all of that and still feel cool, which is this weirdly aspirational thing that
Yes.
is, um, so much of what I think beauty is, right? And I really do believe if you could make someone feel more confident in their own skin, that I think they walk differently
Yeah.
through the world. So I think the biggest difference is being a founder versus being an employee is really like I was carrying out someone else's vision before. And actually I think I was quite good at it.
Hmm.
I was always a pretty good student, and I think I really wanted to please other people, and I understood how to take direction. And I think turning the camera on myself or turning the tables, it was actually quite hard for me to learn how to do that. I was a person who wrote the speeches, or it's funny, like in a podcast type thing, I'd be the one who'd be, prepping
Yeah.
my founders with like, these are the answers that I think you should have, or whatever it
The key
was.
talking points to hit.
Yeah, 100%. That was always my job.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden to have it be about me. And actually, when we first launched and I was doing desk sides with people like you, initially I didn't even talk about like me or the brand, like me as part of the brand, my own eczema journey. I just would talk about the products. And it wasn't until honestly editors started asking me, like, oh, but why did you, make products the way you're making them? Why do you care about sensitive skin? I'd be like, oh, yeah, yeah. And I have eczema. And starting to put myself, and they would be like, wait, that's interesting. Why aren't you telling me that part of the story? And I was like, oh, but who cares about me?
Yeah.
And that was the thing that really changed for me, was recognizing that people did care about a humanized story, which happened to be myself. But it was a new thing for me because I just hadn't done it before. It hadn't been that part was hard for me, and I
Did you
think it
find it
still is.
daunting to put yourself in the kind
I
of
do,
brand
because
story?
I've never, I still don't. I don't seek being famous.
Mm.
That's not, and if you look at like my, I don't know, Instagram, I don't, I like repost content and I will like collab on a
Hmm.
piece of content, but I don't create my own content, nor do I
Hmm.
post anything on my own really, because I don't know, it's just kind of not who I am, or not how I want to spend my time necessarily, but I think it's important too.
First and foremost, you're a CEO and founder, right? So,
Yeah.
mhm.
And I think the things that I care about are like, I care about the team, I care about the business, I care about the customer. And I do think people want to hear other people's stories and they want to relate to them. And so I try to I actually quite like this type of content because I like talking to people and having like a longer opportunity to share a story.
Going back to when you launched, you said you had two interns with you who
Yeah.
are still with you now.
Yeah.
What were those first 12 months of Tower 28 building the brand like?
Ah,
And what did you tend to focus on in your marketing
do you
strategy
mean after we launched, or?
after you launched?
Okay,
So,
got it,
not
got it.
the pre, like
Yeah.
after official Shopify, website
Yeah.
live, Instagram live. Did you also focus on TikTok as well?
Yeah. So we launched in April of 2019. And 3 months later, we were in our first retailer, Credo, which is a clean beauty retailer. They have 12 stores throughout the country.
Hmm.
Um, 6 months from the time we launched, by September of that year, we were in Sephora.
Wow.
Sephora.com. By March, so not quite a year later, right? 11 months after we launched.
March 2020.
We were in 2020. And if you remember what March of 2020 was like.
Yes.
We were in every Sephora in the country.
Wow.
On a half shelf.
Wow.
Which is very unusual. So Sephora typically launches, I don't know, 100 stores. Even if you are Lady Gaga, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, maybe Rhode is different. Rhode, I think, went into all the stores. But generally speaking, they test like a few stores first, and then they keep going. In our situation, we went into they had a half shelf, and they gave us this half shelf in the multi-branded clean end cap, which is a kind of a curation concept that they had. And we went into every single store. So to answer your question about the first 12 months, we did very organic things. We did influencer seedings, and this is back when, I actually don't know if this is like this anymore, but it used to be everyone's YouTube channel had their address on it.
Okay.
And so we
Like a
would
PO
just,
box.
like a PO box.
Yeah.
And so we would, and now I feel like you really should not do this, but we would just send people boxes.
Okay.
And I was always really a stickler about writing like a handwritten note. So we would send, I don't know, Kathleen Lights of the world, like an influencer, and we would say like, Kathleen, I think we love you. We know we love what you're doing with like lacquer lights. Here is I'm a founder just like you. Would you like to try this product? And like shockingly, people actually opened our packages.
Amazing.
And tried. And we had and again, this is back in the day when people were sending like life-size beauty blenders. Like, I don't know if you remember,
I remember
like, what
that.
PR boxes
huge,
were.
Well, then they weren't even life size. They were
No,
like,
that's what
they
I
were
mean. Life size
literally
is
like
like
half
this.
the
They were
size
like,
of me.
They were human size.
Yes.
Yes, you're right. Life size is actually like the 2-3 inches.
It was like literally the size of this plant right here.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
It
insane.
was, and people were sending like talking iPads. Like you would open, you know what I mean?
It
like
was like the era of the bigger, the better the PR
Yes.
package and the more coverage you're going to get, basically.
Correct. And it was like how fantastical you can make
Insanity.
it. And like, yes, it was all of that. And we were sending really simple PR boxes. So in the beginning, I think it was super organic, and I think it always has been. So for me, I really think the success of the brand has been in the product. The product is like simple. I like to say an elevated basic, right? So we make products like gloss and mascara and blush. Like these are not like incredibly innovative categories, but we're able to do them in a way that like you're able to get the irritation-free aspect, and we do so much testing around that. All of our products are compliant now with not only eczema, but also psoriasis and rosacea. So it's just something that you can trust, and it has like a high performance element to it. So I think that's been a huge part of our success. But the first 12 months were, I mean, really it's like following the customer, right? So we were just really trying to pay attention to who is liking this, what works, like what are they responding to? And so much of it really, it's like what you said earlier about like, or talking about the conversation we had earlier about my eczema, like recognizing that that was something that actually people related to, and being like, okay, maybe we should include this in the story more. So it's almost like a refining process. And then the biggest shock for me really was, again, within those 12 months it was a big shock to me that we got into Sephora, by the way.
How was that conversation like when you got the call?
Yeah. So I always knew Sephora would take a call from me because I've known them,
yes, of course,
forever, right? And the girl actually, Avril, shout out to my my girl Avril, but the girl who was quite junior actually when I was the head of marketing for Josie Maran, she was on the Sephora side. Over time, she had risen up through the ranks and she had become the director of makeup.
Okay.
And I saw, and we were not like best friends. It wasn't like we really kept in touch or anything, but I could see that when we launched, she was one of like the 50 people liking our posts. Like we didn't have a ton of, it was very early days. And so I could see her liking, and I was like, oh, she's paying attention. And I didn't act like I knew, but I wrote to her. And
very coy. Hi, how are you?
I was like, so I started this brand. I don't know if you know. And she invited us to come to the Sephora office. When we got to the Sephora office, I had this appointment and I had a mentor. I still have the same mentor. Her name is Margarita, and she is the former chief merchant at Sephora. So she's worked at Sephora forever. And I said to her, I was like, can I get some advice about this meeting? Like, I want it to go really well. And I told her, here's my plan. Here's my deck. What do you think of it? And my plan was, I went to business school. It was very linear. It was like, here's the need gap. Here's how I'm going to solve the problem. And
You
it was
had your corporate mindset on,
super
right?
corporate,
Yes.
super boring. And she looked at the deck and she threw it away and she said, oh my God, please, you don't do any of that. All you need to do is like, she's like, they need to walk out of that room and be able to like, short of like smelling the water from the ocean and like feeling the air at Tower 28. She's like, you need to bring the aspiration and the story to them of like the safety and all of these things. And I was like, what? How am I going to do that? Like, what do you mean? And so one of the things we ended up doing was, so our lip jelly product, which is one of our best selling products today, and that we launched with in the very beginning, it was this kind of like, I don't know, like when you put it on, you have that, I just ate a popsicle
Okay.
look. Like it was meant to be like juicy tubes, like very like bright in the tube. But when you put it on, it was just the right amount of color. And I had read this thing where if you wear beauty products, lip products, every day you eat like 7 pounds of them a year.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if that's true, but I
Okay.
read that. I mean, you can think if you,
Yeah, true, actually.
And you're
'cause-
eating
and you're
it.
eating and you've got fresh lipstick on.
I mean, I
you
don't
will
like
ingest some of it, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, over the course of a year. And I was like, if that's true, then
You want it to be a clean product.
you want it to be
Yeah.
a clean product. And so like I was really inspired by this idea. And so that was one of the first products that we launched. And so I had this idea that I was like, okay, maybe it's like the popsicle
Mhm.
thing. And so we ordered these popsicle covers from Amazon, taped them to pieces of paper,
Okay.
ran them through a printer to custom print Tower 28 all over them,
Okay.
and then hand put them into popsicle, like they were popsicle holders. We got to Sephora, and next door there was a liquor store, and we bought popsicles from the liquor store and we put them in the covers. And then when we got off the elevator, we had this little cooler
Yeah.
where I had the popsicles and I had the lip glosses.
Okay.
And our meeting was like at 10 a.m. And
They're probably like, why are you coming to a cooler?
Yeah.
A meeting with a cooler.
and we got there like at 9:45, and we had this little boom box because we were like, oh, it's like the beach. And in my mind, this was all going to be super cool,
Yeah.
right? Like this was
This
all
is
going
the
to,
story to tell.
this was going to be really, really cool. And the reality of it is corporate offices are quiet. It's awkward.
Yeah.
And so we had the music. We were standing there, me and these two girls. We had the popsicles, and nobody, we were walking around and nobody was even looking up. And it felt so embarrassing. And then this girl in the corner stands up and she's like, Amy? And it was my old intern who has now working at Sephora. And she was like, hey guys, come over here. And she got all of her friends to try our product because we were handing out products.
Right.
And they were all trying the product. And by the time I got into the room for the actual meeting, Avril, who was the one who was taking the meeting, said to me, like before we'd even pitched, she said, I don't know what you just did, but I've gotten like pinged in so many messages, people saying like, you have to take this brand. Because people in the office were writing her after they tried our products and they're like, you have to take it.
Amazing.
And so it was actually like a very easy conversation
Okay.
after that. And she literally said in that meeting, and I'm very rarely short of words, and she literally said to me, you're in, great, we'll take it. We'll put you in all stores. And I just froze. I was like, what?
So was it in the space of like 15 minutes you were just walking
Oh,
around
yeah.
with your cooler
Yeah,
of like product? And then it was like, was it Slack? She was getting a million Slack
Yeah,
messages.
100%.
Love that.
And that was how it happened. So we got into all Sephoras, but then we got into Sephora and then COVID happened.
Yeah. Was that a shock to the system? Did you
Well,
think it was
It was
game
not only
over?
a shock, but I thought it was over. Because after we got into Sephora and COVID hit, like, think about it, my inventory was largely sitting in stores. And if you remember at the time, we didn't know how long COVID was going to last.
Yeah.
We didn't know if it was going to be a week. We didn't know what after it was a month. We didn't know what was happening, right? So it's not like we could take back the inventory. It wasn't, we didn't know how to react to it. So I thought I was going to spend that first year going into stores, educating people, trying to make the sell through in stores happen. And then all of a sudden there was no store. And we had to really pivot. And so what really did happen was I started noticing that, I was like, well, if I don't have any like products to sell, maybe I saw that there were still essential workers and
Mm.
there were nurses, there were grocery store workers, and they were still wearing masks. And so the first thing we did was we donated some products, some SOS spray, to some of our local hospitals. And then I started hearing from people like who, if then we started hearing about masks,
Yeah. Yeah.
remember? Because when you're wearing a mask, you're still talking, you're still eating. And what happens is then it's kind of gross, but like it's your saliva is like
Yeah.
literally just sitting on your face.
Bacteria is collecting in like a certain
Bacteria is
space.
collecting, and that's when you're starting to get
Mhm.
acne. And like people who've never broken out were starting to break
Yeah.
out.
Mhm.
And our SOS spray, again, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. And people started talking about how this was like saving their skin, which is, by the way, why it's called SOS spray, save our skin, because it really did save my skin. And I would literally just write to them and say, oh my God, that's amazing that you had this experience. Do you have a before and after that you can show me by any chance? And they would send a before and after, and I'd be like, thank you so much. I'll send you another bottle. And in the beginning, it was honestly just that manual and that simple where we would actually say to people like, if you really love the product so much, would you mind writing a testimonial for us? Write a review.
Mhm.
And that's really what built the brand, was that product during 2020 in the middle of COVID, and actually solving a problem in a way that was actually gentle but effective and natural. And
Was it a different trajectory than you expected?
I mean, I don't know that I could have even some entrepreneurs, and I do think that there is some truth to this. You have to have kind of like a level of delulu, like a little bit of delusion to be an entrepreneur. I think now I try to have a little bit more delulu, but like in the beginning I was hopeful,
Mm.
but I think I don't think I ever would have even dreamed of the success that we have today. I mean, to think that I'm here with you because we're launching in the Middle East is so, and I've never been here before.
6 years later,
It's
which is
so
not
crazy.
realistically, it's not that a long amount of time, really.
It's not that much time,
Yeah.
especially when I like think about everything that's happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, and since then we're in all Sephora's, US and Canada. We're in Sephora at Kohl's. We're in Mecca in Australia. We're in
Mhm.
Sephora UK.
Mhm.
Now we're here in the Middle East. I mean, it's pretty wild.
We'll get to the launch in the Middle
Yeah.
East eventually, but looking back on the last 6 years, what would you say have been the really pivotal hurdles you've had to overcome as a founder? I know COVID would have been one of them for sure, but in terms of, navigating being an entrepreneur, managing, being a mum as well, and starting a brand from the ground up, like what would you say has been? I mean, that's a lot to deal with anyway, but
I'm like, everything
yeah.
you just said, correct,
Plus
correct,
more.
correct.
Yeah. Has there been really like times where you're like, I just can't do this anymore? Or
I mean, I will be honest with you and tell you, I think 2025 has actually been my hardest year.
really? Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
So for one, we started the year with the fires in the Palisades, and my home was in the Palisades. And this is also, so it's a combination. So it is 2025. I've had personal things going on with like nothing life threatening, but my kids have had some health issues. We lost our home, or our home is standing, but it has lead and asbestos in it. And our community is completely gone, and our town is gone. The street I live on has 5 homes. Mine is one of them, which people are like, congratulations. But it's actually, I think, a little more, it's less straightforward from an insurance perspective and everything like that. So that's kind of how I started the year. Plus, one would argue for everyone, this year has just been a softer year in terms of, I think, consumer confidence, sales, everything else. Luckily, we have a nice business that has grown really well, anyways, but still, it's just been more challenging. And then from a team perspective, if I'm being honest, the the business grew faster than the team did. So we were, a year and a half ago, we were 12 people, and today we're 32.
Wow.
So if you think about like adding, that
Over
doesn't,
double.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's more than double, right? And so if you think about adding that many people and them kind of like bumping into each other and trying to figure out like, okay, now this is your job now, and trying to do all of those things. And I care so much about the culture and the team. I would say that this is honestly probably the hardest year that I've had. But at the same time, like, what a privilege. These are great problems to have. And I think when I really consider it, it's like there's nothing else I would be doing. So I feel very lucky too.
Well, we do have a milestone this year because you've obviously launched in the UK a
Yeah.
couple of months ago, and now you've launched in the Middle East. And we're here in Dubai, obviously chatting for Grazia. Talk us through kind of how you found yourself in Sephora in the Middle East and what you think of the market here. I know you've only just arrived a couple of days ago and it's your first time in the region, but you've been exploring kind of the market here in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. What have you found that's interesting about this region so far?
It's super surreal for me. So I think we talked a little bit about my background, but my first job in beauty was working international for Smashbox. And so I did this for other people. And so to do it for my own brand is like a very full circle moment to me. And in the Middle East specifically, and I actually I was so interested in seeing if it was quite different. And I think a lot of it's the same. So I think there is more of an emphasis. You can tell me if I'm wrong, actually, but I was talking to some people in stores and it sounded like it was still true. Kind of more of an emphasis on eyes than maybe even in the States. I think there is a different, it seems like makeup is more important than skincare. Is that true?
I would say they're both interchangeable, if I'm honest,
Yeah.
because you have such a mixed market here because there's such a huge, especially in Dubai and the UAE, there's such a huge expat community here from all over. You've got a huge population from India, from Lebanon, from other parts of the Middle East, from the West as well, from the UK. There's actually a lot of East Asian here as well.
Yeah,
So
no, I've noticed. It's super multicultural.
Super multicultural, but obviously you've got the incredible like Emirati population as well, who are very well versed in makeup and skincare and very much well versed in beauty in general. So it's hard to pinpoint, I would say.
Totally.
In my
Well,
opinion.
and I think that is actually maybe one of the first things I would say is that the consumer here is incredibly sophisticated.
Yes, I would agree.
And very like the number of people when I was in malls said that they already knew what Tower 28 was because of social, and they were so educated about the ingredients, about the products. I was very impressed.
Yeah. What would you say Tower 28 can bring to the market that's different?
Yeah. So again, we really do specialize in sensitive skin, and we straddle all the different categories, which I think is really exciting. One of the things I think that we're able to really bring is, again, our products are made for sensitive skin, and I don't think that many things have come at it from that perspective. So they're not only clean, but also safe for sensitive skin. There are, when I was specifically in Sephora, I saw so many young girls shopping. And I think in America as well, like we have a net new customer of the Gen Z, Gen Alpha customer who's never shopped. And as a mom myself, I will say, like, I don't want my kids using retinol, glycolic acid, these types of things. And I think the fact that we're able to offer something that is still cool, still fun, but still good for you and at an accessible price point, I think that's pretty exciting. But even for people who are like me on the other side of age, right, where I think we offer products that are really great for, like, I use all of our products too. And we actually sell our products in a lot of med spas as well, because even if you are, and esthetician offices as well, because even if you are someone who uses every type of laser, every type of, if you're doing Botox, all those types of things, there are moments that you give yourself sensitive skin.
Yeah.
And you kind of want to go back to that. And so, like, I like to think of it as kind of like your baseline. Like, this is my everyday white t-shirt, and then I accessorize with other things.
Interesting. Okay.
So
that's a really good way to look at it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to kind of your founder journey, and like obviously now we're 6 years in, you started in 2018 when you were seeding your funding. And now 2025, if you look at that versus when you launched versus now, what are the two big take homes that you've learned over the past 6 years or 7 years
Oh,
as a founder?
I thought that I knew a lot, because I
Yeah.
had a lot of work
Yeah, of course.
experience.
Yeah.
And I thought that because I had worked at small companies and worn a lot of different hats,
Hmm.
and I had worked in proximity to a lot of other functional roles, that I knew a lot of things. And I was not prepared for how little I knew. And but then, I mean, in an effort to be encouraging, if anyone's listening and wants to do this, I'm not saying you have to work in an industry for 20 years before you start doing it and that you still won't know.
Hmm.
But I think even if you do work, and you will never know everything.
Mm.
And so you might as well just start whenever you want to start, because you'll figure it out along the way.
Hmm.
And for me, I think I had the real benefit of having community
Mm.
and coworkers, basically, from my past lives, to be able to say, like, I have a question. I don't know what this means. Can
Yeah.
you help me?
Hmm.
And I think that has made all the difference in the world. And so I think, I don't know, I don't think I had any pretense that this was going to be easy.
Mm.
And it hasn't been easy. I think it has been more fulfilling than I thought it would be too. So it's like the highs are higher and the lows are lower, maybe.
Yeah.
And in the end, like, I don't know, I was just on vacation with my family in Hawaii, and there was a moment that I was like, could I just do this? Like, could I just do nothing at some point in my life? Like, would I enjoy this?
Yeah.
And I actually, my takeaway from it was actually, I don't know if I would enjoy that. If I didn't know, it's almost like you can enjoy vacation
Mm.
because it is a respite and it is like something different.
But you've got something to go back
But you've
to.
got something to go back to.
Mm.
And I think the fact that, like, I really love the fact that every day I can make a contribution, that I have a problem to solve.
Mm.
And I like to think that our products make people feel better about themselves and actually solve a problem in the world. And I think there's nothing quite like that.
I love that. I've got two more questions for you. You've spoken about founding your business at 40. You've kind of spoken about it in a kind of reflective way that at the time you thought, oh, I'm 40. It's
Yeah.
quite late to be starting a
Yeah,
brand.
for sure.
Do you still feel the same way? And why did you feel that way at the time, that it was late to be starting a brand at 40?
I think there's something about age. So here's a funny anecdote, but I am speaking on the Forbes 30 under 30 conference, actually pretty quickly, pretty soon, the 30 under 30. And I was telling the woman I was talking to on the Forbes side of things how strange it is that there is like 30 under 30, 40 under 40, and then 50 over 50, which means there's literally a dead zone between 40 and 50.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something in our society where for the 40s are almost like this forgotten age. Like, if you in your 40s, like, you're kind of neither here nor there. You're not young, you're not super old yet.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people I know, a lot of my friends are, and so I'm 47 now, and a lot of my friends are kind of like, oh, well, I guess it's just too late. Whether you're talking about your partner, you're talking about your career, like that thing that I always wanted to do, I guess I chose too late, and here I am.
Mm.
And I think I'll settle. And that is the thing that I've learned the most, that I think is the issue, which is, I don't know, even in your 40s, you've got like, you're just kind of maybe on the tipping point of halfway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we still have a lot of life to live. And so it's so silly to me that we don't continue to strive. And I'm so happy that I did. I think when you're 40, and again, this is not that long ago for me, right? 7 years. I think I felt like it was just so hard. I had small kids, a mortgage. I had, same thing, all the things I have today. And you just don't know if you can. You feel like maybe you made all your decisions already. But when I look back on it, I'm so glad that I took the shot, because I think there's nothing more fulfilling than, like, again, happy wife, happy life. Like, you have to try for it. Otherwise, like, what are you accepting, and what are you role modeling
Mm.
for your kids?
Would you say sometimes with these age brackets that we have, sometimes that it's a rat race to do it sooner rather than later, rather than in the correct way? Because you, as you said, you had 2 decades in the beauty industry before you founded your brand, and even having all that experience, you've had a
Totally.
huge learning curve building your own brand.
I mean, I always say, I think one of the best things I got to do was learn on someone else's dime.
Mm.
There's no right way to do it, right? Like I know people who did it young and have been successful. I know people who are older than me and have been, I mean, look at Bobbi Brown. She just started another brand when
brand.
she's in her 60s.
Yeah, amazing.
And so I think there's not a right time necessarily. But at the same time, I think that we as a society really glamorize doing things at a young age, and social media has made it so we all like the competition of that, or the pressure, I would say, of feeling like successful at a really young age. And I'm really conscious of that because I have kids.
Mm.
And I think about it for them too. And I look at my employees, and I think it's so easy to look at somebody else's life and think it's so much easier and so much better than your own. But the truth is we all struggle. We're all trying to figure things out, and there's no one timeline that makes sense. So for me, I'm a more risk averse person, and I think it made sense for me to kind of learn on someone else's dime and then take my shot at it. But like maybe if you're not so risk averse, and everyone has different means too, right? So I was never someone who could have just put this all on my credit card. I don't have that risk appetite, but some people do.
Mhm.
And so I would encourage anyone, whatever your dream is, to figure out how to make it happen, whether it is by working for someone first, which I think is great, or if it's just learning as you go.
Mm. Final question. We've spoken about your brand and who you are as a founder. Who is Amy beyond Tower 28?
Oh, wow, that's a deep question.
I know it's a Monday morning as well.
It's a Monday morning. Who is Amy? I think I'm pretty much the same in all contexts. I think that's something I'm actually quite proud of. I don't think any of my childhood friends or college girlfriends who heard me on this podcast, I don't think they would say I was any different than who I am in a work environment, who I am at home, who I am. I think I'm fun. I think I'm silly. I think but at the same time, I think I am ambitious. I'm hardworking. And I really believe that I was put on this planet to hopefully do some good. And if I can do some good in this little corner of the world that I have worked in for such a long time, that's kind of my mission. And I think all of us have that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been so interesting, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Olivia.
Thank you. You've been listening to The Making of, a podcast by Grazia. Visit graziamagazine.com/ME for more from the worlds of fashion, beauty, and culture. And make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Grazia_ME.